B-side here at the lovely Shelbourne Hotel. Got Serato Scratch Live hooked up, showing you basically how digital DJs are doing it. Got 2 turntables, analog mixer. This is how we do it. Traditionally, you'll find that DJs started out pretty much with vinyl records, and even though we have digital systems, I'm still using vinyl records to control the music basically out of my computer. And I've got my turntables connected to an audio interface, and that is actually connected to my computer via USB. But everything else I'm using is basically a traditional analog setup. So the mixer is analog, the turntables are analog. The only thing really digital is the music files and the fact that I'm using an audio interface to manipulate it. This is a regular piece of vinyl, but instead of it having the song on it, it has the time of any song I want it to be. So I put the needle on the record like normal, and I spin it and mix it and scratch it like normal, but the music is actually coming from my computer, not from the record. The beauty of using a digital vinyl system, or a DVS as we call it, is that I physically don't have to go through crates and crates and crates digging out all these different records and queuing them up one at a time. I can just simply go to my computer, click and drag, or I can use a shortcut key to basically load whatever song I want to load, and then I physically cue it like I normally would with the headphones and my mixer. So once I've got that cue point and I basically queued it up, ready to go, start playing, I can pitch like normal to actually do mixing and scratching. But one thing I do have to be careful of is the fact that it is still an analog setup. I do have to make sure my needles are clean, the record is clean. Now, once I've already got the track queued and playing, I can do the normal things I would do with any traditional analog mixer. I've got my crossfader here that switches between channels 1 and 2. I've got my line faders here that'll actually bring up the audio for those individual channels. I've got a 3-band EQ with a Q pan here. And then I've got my gain control, which is the input, and then also the master, which is basically the output, what everyone's going to hear in the club. Whether you're using traditional vinyl or a CD player, the whole beauty of beat matching or beat mixing for a DJ is to actually take the beats per minute from one song and try to match it to the other song that everyone's listening to. So everyone's listening to channel 1, I'm going to cue up channel 2, and I'm going to adjust the beats per minute by using pitch fader. I can use a spindle, or I can just adjust the platter itself. And once I've got that BPM or beats per minute matched to the song that everyone else is listening to, I just bring up that fader. Let's talk a little bit about scratching. There's only 3 real basic principles that a DJ can do with scratching, whether it's a CD player or a turntable. It's basically the push, the pull, or the release. And anything else is usually a modification of a push, or pull, or a release, and some fader techniques, basically on and off with the fader, which gives you different sounds and different cuttings. So just kind of give you a little quick sample of. Now, depending on if you're using vinyl or CDs or a DVS, you have the ability, or may or may not have the ability, to do looping and effects. Traditionally, for a DJ to do some looping, with vinyl, you literally have to do what we call needle dropping. On a CD player, you usually have an in and out loop or just a quick phrase loop. And depending on the software you're using, if you're using software, you'd have to go up to your computer keyboard and either configure or remember what your looping commands are, or your effects commands would be. Now I'm going to show you what you can do with a DVS or digital vinyl system. Basically, I've taken my digital vinyl system like Serato Scratch Live or Tractor Scratch, and I brought it into a 3D realm. The 3D, which is the controller right here, allows me to do all of the wonderful things that the software is capable of doing. So I'm not a click mouse DJ anymore. I'm not stuck on my laptop trying to loop, trying to trigger samples, trying to queue up songs, or even loading songs. The only time I'm touching my computer now is when I'm manually entering in a search. Another wonderful thing about using a controller with a DVS system is that, for example, Serato Scratch Live 1.9 came out with loop roll. It didn't take much for me to go in and basically just reassign the control and add loop roll to the existing controller. So all I have to do is go in, reassign the button that I want to make my loop roll, and there I have it. So basically any DVS program or digital vinyl software that you have that allows you to use a MIDI control device, you can easily set up a 3D into that environment, and it frees you from all of the typical click mouse DJ scenarios where you look like you're checking your email or you look like you're Skyping or chatting with people. It's a little more obvious when I'm triggering loops, when I'm doing samples, when I'm doing all these different things, when I have the controller out there in front of me instead of going to the computer. So when I have a controller added to my setup, it really just advances my performance level. I'm able to do a lot of things that I physically just cannot do with a keyboard configuration or your traditional analog knobs and setups. So I can actually go in, do some quick drumming, and drum while I do a motor off, bring it back up, and it's still on beat. I can do my loops, and I can even go in, stretch that loop out, make it wider, just bringing out more of a performance aspect to your DVS setup. These are just a couple of ways you can easily add a controller into your DVS setup and just raise your game.